I want to talk to you about the beginning of my journey and one of the books that I read that really just put things into perspective when it came to how my problems are really so small at an actual global level. And it doesn't matter, when you compare it to some of these people and some of the books that you read and some of the people that you look up to, your problems, they don't matter, honestly. And so when you're sitting here complaining about dialing 200 dials a day or not being able to close a sales call, yeah, it sucks, I get it. But one of the ways you can kind of make yourself realize that you just have to keep going, have to keep putting in the work, is to kind of read books like this, and that is Man's Search for Meaning. And Viktor Frankl is the author of this book, and the first half is really him explaining his experience in the concentration camps, being fed rations, dealing with some of the sadistic guards who just see the pleasure of suffering in people, dealing with other inmates, dealing with basically the cold winters, having survived several winters, and throughout several different concentration camps during the Second World War. And then the second half of the book is really on the psychology of life, the meaning of life, how to derive meaning in your own life. And he really explains everything in depth there. Logotherapy, he references several philosophers like Carl Jung, Friedrich Nietzsche. And I want to take this time to talk to you guys about how this book made me learn so many different lessons that quite honestly allowed me to keep going throughout the journey, especially in the beginning, as I mentioned in my last video. And so one of them is a quote that I always think about, and it's on my vision board, and it's in my phone constantly, and I'm constantly thinking about it because this is a way that you should go about living your life. And that is, I view my life as being abundant with meaning and purpose. I view my life as being abundant with meaning and purpose. And anytime you start any endeavor, you have to have this mindset of being abundant in opportunities, in sales calls, in being able to actually get clients, or, if you're, if your heart just got broken, on to the next, right? There's so many different people out there, but really this quote and him referencing this just puts so many different things into perspective. And truly, guys, when you live in a state of abundance, when you stop living in a state of lack and desire, because when you desire something, it's coming from a place of not having, and it's like, I need, but rather abundance. And other modern day neuroscientists like Joe Dispenza, they talk about this, Andrew Huberman, they talk about this, and living in that vibrational state of abundance, it's going to attract, and it's so infectious. Energy is so pure, and sales is a game of energy transfer, energy conviction. And where does that come from? Being abundant and knowing that you actually do what you say you can do, being abundant in who you are as a person, and knowing that there are more opportunities, and that when it comes to actual negotiations, you don't need them as much as they need you. And so you're able to pull back because there's more, there's more behind the curtain. And so living in a state of abundance with meaning and purpose. And with this quote, you will never think of your life as needing something or something of lack, and it's really just going to make you keep going, because every single day there's a new opportunity, there's something new to be grateful for, there's something new to attack, there's a couple new clients to sign, there's so much abundance in your life. And it's kind of like what Hermosi said. I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but it was like, lock in, make money, don't care about the opinions of others, realize it never mattered at the end of the day, help others do the same. And it's kind of like that circle of life. And so you truly want to be abundant at the end of the day, because at the end of most people's journey, they just want to give. That's why you have mentorships. Unless they're scammer pieces of shits, right? But that's why you have like actual people who actually care. And coming from that perspective, it's just going to make your life and the quality of your life and the people you attract so much better than if coming from a place of lack. And when you do come from those places of lack, it's going to make you not as good as a person. You might, when it comes to money, you might short someone, you might go behind someone's back, you might backstab someone, and you never want to have those frames, those mindsets, because it's only going to do more harm than good. And as I mentioned, he did mention Friedrich Nietzsche, and the second point I want to mention, and the second quote that he referenced is, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." He who has a why can bear almost any how. I want to make sure I'm still going. And with this quote, this is another amazing quote that I live by, because truly, guys, the world is yours. Anything you want, you can have. And as cliche as it might sound, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be, absolutely nowhere near where I want to be, but I truly believe, I'm content with where I'm at, with what I'm doing and what I've been able to achieve, but I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But this quote, as he referenced in this book, a Holocaust survivor, someone talking about surviving concentration camps, literally being starved, on the brink of starving to death, having marched in the absolute freezing cold, and then marching past people who were just dead, laying in the snow, frozen because they couldn't make the journey because they stopped walking and the guards shot them, or they just couldn't keep up. And he who has a why can truly bear almost any how. And if Viktor Frankl can endure the Holocaust along with so many others who have done the exact same, and this is one of the quotes that he references in the books, my God, is it true? My God, is it true? And I'm going to get into kind of why he was able to bear this, some of the reason and some of the psychology behind it. But guys, in your life, if you truly want something, you can make it happen. Now, of course, it's going to take time and effort and sacrifice, and I get it, right? Everything takes sacrifice. Every single decision you make comes with a pro and a con, and it's tough because you are faced with difficult decisions. Do I want to lock in 10 hours a day, isolate myself, stay away from my family, maybe break up with my girl, not really talk to people, or do I just kind of want to go through the same habitual actions and lead to the exact same place where I'm at? It comes down to you and what you want to do. And the trenches, you don't have to make it, super intense and boring and stale, though it might be that way for an initial period of time. But going back to this quote, guys, he who has a why can bear almost any how. And this is one of those epiphanies, one of those realizations that I had when I first read this about how truly anything you want can be done. And as cliche as it might sound, it's true. Now, the third point, and something that really resonated with me, for my personal journey, and I'm assuming for yours, is Viktor, in the first half of the book, was talking about the death rate was higher during Christmas and New Year's because people thought the war would end sooner than it did. And so, what does this mean? This means that those individuals who unfortunately lost their life because they thought the war would end by New Year's, by Christmas, but it kept going, means that they were focused on the outcome as opposed to the here and now. And in your journey, you have created a vision board, you have designed a life that you want, and that's the end. So what you do is you take everything that you want in your life, and kind of like what I spoke in my last videos, how much money do you want to make, what type of girlfriend do you want or boyfriend do you want, find out the specifics of those characteristic traits. Where do you want to live? What type of circles do you want to be in? Who do you want to be friends with? And you take those outcomes, everything that you want at the end, everything that you desire, and you put that into a vision board. And then what you do is you don't focus on the outcomes, you focus on the inputs, the here and now, and what you can control, not what you can't. And this is the exact same thing here, because those individuals focus on the end of the war. And so when they realized that the war wasn't going to end, they were like, well, what the fuck? Like, what do I have to live for? And having to come face to face with that realization, that's enough to kill a man. And in your journey, if you're constantly fixed on the outcome, you're going to drive yourself crazy. I mean, I'm telling you guys, people drove themselves to death because they thought the war was going to end beforehand. And now it's not that extreme when it comes to, running an SMA or whatever endeavor that you're in. But if you focus on the outcome, you will literally drive yourself crazy. And that's why so many people give up, because fuck it, I don't have what I want in X amount of time, so I'm just going to leave. I'm done. I don't care. And so when I read this, guys, this was like another holy shit epiphany moment. And it's absolutely true. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And in this game, you could literally just outcompete people by staying in longer, putting in more time. And that means to not focus on the outcome. Like, seriously, you don't have to focus on the outcome. Just focus on what you can control. And those are the daily inputs, the daily habits, the daily actions that will get you one step closer, that will move the needle one step closer to where you want to go. Number 4, happiness is an outcome of the meaning of your life. Pursue meaning, not pleasure. And so throughout the book, this is an overlapping thing that Viktor kind of talks about. And that is, the goal should not be happiness. The goal should be to find a deep-rooted meaning in your life. Something that you're doing that makes you feel fulfilled at the end of the day. Something that you have a goal or an ambition that you want to seek out, that you want to do, and you continue to attack it every single day. Kind of like point 3, just focusing on the meaning, focusing on the daily habits. And by extension, when you get done with 10, 12, 14 hours of work, and you truly did everything in your power to do everything that day, to move the needle one step further, you're going to go to sleep feeling like $1 million. You're going to go to sleep ending that day feeling content, pure in your heart. And I know for me personally, when I was doing this, when I went to Dubai, the longest I worked was 15 hours in a single day, and it was pure focus, and I was in a state of flow. I remember the entire week, it was like 12, 15 hours a day, and the entire time was just a pure state of flow, and it was just natural and amazing, just caffeinated, fasted. It was incredible. And I still get into those states, of course, but those days, ending those days, I felt like $1 million. I felt so content in my heart. My life was amazing, and it still is, right? But like in those moments, you have to focus on the meaning in your life, not happiness, not short-term pleasures. And that's what I think too many people are getting wrong nowadays. Everyone, from what they see online and, like university, everyone's just like out drinking, chasing short-term pleasures. And I get it, right? Like I get it. It's easy to be distracted. It's easy to just like go down, an endless hedonistic pleasure of going out and partying and whatever. And I get it, right? But I think too many people are kind of empty inside because they're just chasing short-term pleasures as opposed to actual meaning in their life. What is actually meaning to you? I don't know. You have to figure that out. I'm not going to tell you what's meaningful for me. I know what that is for me, and it's on my vision board. It's constantly in my mind, and that's kind of what keeps me going. And the 5th point I want to talk to you about is man's soul. So throughout the book, he mentions how at the end of the day, what we truly have is our soul, and it can't be broken, because if it can be broken, then you're just going to kind of go down this path, and it's not going to be in your favor, right, long term. So the world is tough. Get tougher. As cliche as it might sound, it's the truth. And you need to get tougher. And there is no other way around it. It's a cruel world out there full of people who are self-centered, out for their own. And when you're in this mix, when you're trying to figure out your ways going about the company and what you're doing, you're gonna start to see the real raw human nature, what people are actually like, when money gets involved, when self-interest get involved, and when people have to make tough decisions. And a lot of times people are judged based off of these decisions, and I get it, right? But like for the most part, you really don't understand the severity of it until you're actually in those decision-making positions yourself. So man's soul, what we have at the end of the day is our soul, and it can't be broken. It has to be constantly reinforced, strengthened, defined, just like your craft. You focus on your craft every single day. Now, another thing I want to talk to you guys about is Viktor explains in this, when he was hiking through winter, and they're all chains, right? Guards on both sides, in the front and on the end. There's over several dozen, like Viktor, all marching in line, and they're all in one line in the absolute freezing cold with just a linen, just one shirt, one t-shirt, shorts. Not enough to kind of keep them warm because they're actually freezing. And like I said, some people are dying while they're on these marches. And so as he's marching, one of the other individuals behind him whispers in his ear something along the lines of, "Oh, Viktor, what if our wives saw us right now? What would they think?" And kind of like joking around. And in this moment, Viktor went to a state of imagination. He imagined his family, his wife, and this deep state of imagination really allows him to center himself in surviving, in fighting, in keeping going. And this goes back to find meaning in your life. Now, when you're here complaining about wanting to do 200 dials, not getting a sale in a sales call, or stupid shit, right? Like stupid shit you're complaining about, that will honestly make you quit, that will honestly make you slow down and maybe even stop and just give up entirely. You have to go back to why you started. And you cannot forget this. So that's why I encourage you to create a vision board, to create a vision sheet. And so when you do get in times of hardships, you remember why you started. You pull up that vision board and you're like, this is exactly why I'm doing this in order for me to get this. And when you realize that your problems of not dialing $100 a day is so irrelevant and so tiny on an actual level, it's like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Like, who cares? Who cares what you're doing? There are people actually suffering right now. It doesn't matter about your problems. And there are several different ways in addition to remembering your why that will kind of help you to keep going. And another of those is just zooming out and realizing that, like, it doesn't matter. And so you might as well just do the work. It doesn't matter what you do. And just zooming out and realizing how small we are here in this universe is another reason too. And so I kind of hope that this book resonates with you guys. I would highly encourage you to read it. It's going to make you realize that your problems are nothing and that your life is good and your life is great compared to how people had it and still have it, because quite honestly, it's a tough world out there. And I've seen real suffering with my own eyes when I lived in West Africa and I went into rural Africa, rural Senegal. There were people's homes that were just absolutely destroyed by climate change. They literally had nothing. Some of my friends worked at refugee camps and they were telling me about their experiences there. And you have to be grateful for everything that you have in your life. And I hope you guys can read this book. It definitely put things into perspective for me. And it's a good book to kind of, check in on once a year, something of that sort, to kind of straighten you out, to make sure that you're aligned with, what you're doing and realizing that it's going to be okay. If they can survive this, if Viktor can come out, writing a book and referencing all of this amazing wisdom and knowledge onto us, then we have to take advantage of these great people of history. So that's it. Peace.